Good morning, Happy Valley, and welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, and joined as always when we're talking Penn State football recruiting, my co-host, Dylan Callahan-Crawley. Dylan, another game week coming up. The bye week is finally over, thank God, because that was boring as hell last week, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
And I love college football, but it's not the same when Penn State's not playing. But I guess technically this week they really don't have to play that hard either, so it's going to be another boring week. But anyway,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Kent
That's
State.
one way to put it.
Yeah, Kent State comes to town Saturday, 3:30 p.m. kickoff. James Franklin talked to the media yesterday, going through some stuff. It doesn't seem like he said anything too significant. I guess the biggest question on everyone's mind is injury report. And when they say injury report, I mean Winston. What is the latest with KJ Winston?
Yeah, he met with us on Monday, and at that time, he had no update for the media on Kevin Winston. Said that he could possibly have an update following practice on Wednesday. So we should hopefully hear something about Winston at some point this evening. That being said, I would personally lean towards Winston most likely being a no-go this weekend against Kent State. Penn State does need him to be out there to win this game. They get some run for uh, Day Day Lane, or Day Day as they've been calling him, Dewan Lane back there in at safety with Winston potentially out, but no need to risk further injury or re-aggravated whatever may have been the injury for Winston. So I think he's going to be out Saturday, and perhaps we'll see him back for Illinois next week, but I don't expect him to play this week.
Gotcha. Some other injury updates, so to speak. Andrew Olesh is going to be out for a long-term process. Do we just expect Luke Reynolds to kind of be the guy there at tight end too, or do you think it'll be a mixture of him and Dinkins kind of going back and forth
Yeah,
depending?
I think it's going to be. I think these first 2 weeks will be Dinkins as the number two, perhaps. Well, maybe not, because Dinkins, was coming back from that injury in week two, saw less snaps than Reynolds. So I guess right now it depends how far along Dinkins is in coming back. If he feels like he's more up to speed. If he's more up to speed, I'd expect to see maybe a little bit more of him than Reynolds. But I think it may be a pretty close 50-50 share uh, right now.
Going through some other things that Franklin said this week, there's really not much else to talk about. It's kind of just more so just kind of preparing for Kent State. Is there anything else really that stood out before we start talking about that Kent State team?
No, just Luke Reynolds did get the green light from the coaching staff, so he
Correct.
will burn his red shirt this year. Now the third one, joining Lane and Cooper Cousins. But yeah, nothing really stands out from that James Franklin presser on Monday. Uh, Rather, boring, press conference. Nothing really big takeaway outside of those two injury updates.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this year's Kent State football team. The Golden Flashes are 0-3. They're not very good. They have the 127th ranked offense, averaging 13.7 points per game, and the worst defense in the country, giving up 49.7 points per game. This is a team that has fell off dramatically since Sean Lewis left for Colorado and is now at San Diego State, future Pac-12 San Diego State. Pac-10, 4, 8, whatever they have now. 6, I think, technically.
Heck, whatever.
Yeah, that conference that's not really a power conference, but I guess still is considered one. Besides the point, anything really stand out before we go through some of these position groups? Because they just look god-awful.
No, nothing stands out in a good way. I mean, this is, like you said, a god awful Kent State team. This really shouldn't. It won't be a contest on
Mhm.
Saturday. I don't know if it's going to be 71 nothing bad like it was this past weekend for Kent State. Penn State is not going to put up 65 points in the first half. Let's get that out of the way. Penn State probably doesn't put up 40 points in the first half. Let's get that out of the
Mhm.
way. But um, yeah, this is going to be a ugly, ugly game, I think.
Yeah. Now, I'm just going through it right now. They're starting quarterback Devin Cardman, New Jersey kid, actually. Gotten to know Devin actually a couple, well, really pretty well over the past couple of years. He's nothing special. He's okay. I mean, it's so hard to compare. Like when you look through some of these stats, because they're just not a good team overall. Like he's completing
Yeah,
55%, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 400 yards through 3 games is like the epitome of brutal. Um,
yeah. he may be a decent quarterback himself, but he certainly has no
Yeah.
weapons around him.
And then looking through their run game, Kai Thomas is their leading rusher with averaging 2.5 yards per carry. Their second best rusher, Curtis Douglas, is averaging 3.3 yards per carry. They do have an okay weapon at wide receiver, and it's their slot guy in Luke Floria, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
5'10", 170-pound slot receiver, 15 receptions for 200 yards. That's actually pretty decent for a team that only has, 400 passing yards in the year, and he's got
Yeah.
200 of them. So he might be the only one to really keep a close eye on, but I can't imagine a day where this Penn State defensive line doesn't just absolutely eat up this Kent State line and make Devin Cargman run for his life, basically.
I mean, you'd hope. I mean, Penn State's defensive line these first 2 weeks has not looked good at all.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, they've looked good against the run, obviously,
Hmm.
for the most part, and but the pass rush has not been there yet. Yeah, so you'd hope that they can get some pressure here on Kent State's quarterback, already playing on his name, but yeah, this should be a game where the defensive line feasts, the entire defense feasts. Uh, as I was talking to somebody, if Penn State shows any signs of struggles on either side of the ball in this game, there are some serious conversations that'll have to occur following the game, because this is a very, very bad Kent State team, and one that has no business giving Penn State any issues on Saturday. So everybody should really eat, but yeah, especially that defensive line.
Yeah, looking through their defense actually isn't the worst in the world. It sounds weird to say, like if you're going to be up based off PFF grades, they're not awful. But if you're going based off of just giving up points in general, they're awful. But they're also on the field, I want to say 70% of the time, just because of how bad their offense is. They do have some decent edge rushers in Matt Harmon and Stephen Daly. Looking now between the two of them, they have 17 total pressures, 3 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. That's like actually pretty solid considering that they've played some pretty good competition, especially last week where they
Yeah.
they got destroyed by Tennessee. But who else? They played someone else good. I forget who it was, but either way, this Kent State team is just not that good. They're just meh. And I know, like you said, if they do struggle at all, Penn State, then there is some conversations to be had. But I have a feeling this is going to be a game where we're going to see a lot of Bo Prabula. If Ethan Grunkmeyer's good to
Yeah.
go, you would assume you see some of him.
Yep.
If this wide receiver room doesn't eat this weekend, though, I think that's the one that you really have to start questioning.
Yeah, it will be interesting because obviously I don't think Penn State's going to throw the ball around as much as Tennessee did in this game last week.
Hmm.
Um, so I definitely would say expect the running backs to have a huge load in this game.
Hmm.
I mean, this is a Kansas State defense that's allowed 6.5 yards per attempt this season on the ground. The passing attack, you talked about the passing attack, already 848 passing yards allowed. So definitely, I mean, yeah, you'd like to see Penn State, even not throwing the ball a ton, be able to throw the ball, uh, successfully in this game for 250, 300 yards over their, um, however many attempts. Last weekend, Tennessee threw the ball 25 times for 284 yards. I mean, that's probably where, if you're Penn State, you want to probably end up similar in numbers. Well, yeah, this would be a good game for an additional wide receiver to emerge. Who that will be remains to be seen. Liam Clifford has had a quiet uh, season so far after having a big fall camp and spring ball, according to the coaching staff. Caden Saunders is banged up with some, or has been dealing with some lingering injuries over the last few weeks still. So you definitely like to see a couple wide receivers separate themselves this week and beyond Harrison Wallace third and Amari Evans. That is for sure. But at the same time, say it's one of the young guys that goes off in garbage time, I'm not sure that exactly helps Penn State, because uh, I don't think necessarily if a you know and Anthony Ivy has
That's yeah, it's a good one.
has 4 receptions for 90 yards or whatever in the second half in garbage time. That's not going to really translate into future success, because I don't think he's going to not necessarily, he won't necessarily see that time on the field anyway. But you look at last week, Tennessee, 456 rushing yards, averaged 8.3 yards per carry. This is a Kansas State offensive line that that you could put out. You know, Penn State's probably sorry. This is a Kansas State defensive line. You could put out Penn State's third string offensive line, and they should still get significant push throughout the game to have success on the ground.
Yeah. It's so hard to really like even preview this game to be honest, just because of how bad this team is. But I guess let me ask you this: give me one player on offense that you want to see get more snaps this weekend because he's most likely not going to see a lot of snaps throughout the season, or someone that like give me a young guy that you just want to see someone like shine a little bit.
Um, it's a good one. It's a good one. Cam Wallace. Cam Wallace.
That's a very good one actually.
It's been the Nicholas Singleton and Gatron Allen show the first 2 weeks, and rightfully so. But if one of
Mm-hmm.
those goes down, Cam Wallace is the next man up, and right now he's had a very I don't even know how many
Yeah.
carries you've seen this season. Uh, he's had 9 carries for 24 yards, 2.7 yards per carry. I like to see him starting to find a groove because yeah, if Penn State loses one of those two big guys, he's the next guy up, and they're gonna have to have him have success if one of those guys go down and they want to continue, to be a college football playoff contender.
I'd be intrigued to see Quentin Martin get some reps too. I know everyone raves about him because of his
Yeah,
recruiting ranking, of course. So that would be interesting because that was a little bit of a battle for that RB3 spot in camp, but obviously Cam Wallace walked away with, or ran away with it, I should say. The one name I kind of am really intrigued to see, and it's tough because I want to see like Rucci get some reps with the starting
sure,
offensive line, especially with Shelton struggling. You'd like to see him out there more,
sure.
but again, even if he does well, it's like it's Kent State, like but if like a guy like Shelton struggles versus Kent State, it's like oh holy shit, then let's figure this out. But I think offensive line is kind of where I'm a little bit leaning towards because I want to make sure that these guys are dominating up front. They have the size difference, they have the talent difference. There's no reason why they shouldn't be absolutely mauling that Penn or Kent State defensive line.
Right, right, 100%. This, like I said, Penn State struggles on either side of the ball in any facet of the game.
Hmm.
It is an eye opener in this one because this is not a contest. This is a Kansas State team that would struggle to go 500 in the FCS, let alone, you know, will they win a game this year is the ultimate question at this point.
That's
This
a
is
good
not a
question.
good team at all. If you're Penn State, you obviously have to respect the opponent, and you can't completely overlook them. But I mean, Penn State could play their entire third string team in this game, and I still think they would win by multiple scores. This is not a game in which Penn State really should have any struggles in at any portion, in any facet. This is a game that should be over by halftime, and we're talking about uh, looking ahead to Illinois.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you. Let me ask you about the defensive side of the ball. Any youngsters you really want to see step up there? I know there's maybe a. I'm trying to think. I don't even know. Cornerback, maybe?
I mean, Dejon Lane would be the guy
Oh,
at
yeah.
safety with KJ Winston out. Um, Maybe perhaps see if maybe perhaps we'll see a Max Granville get a little bit of a run here, and Anthony
That's a good
Speck
one.
could get a little bit of a run here at linebacker. I would look for some of the younger guys in general to get some run in throughout the second half of this game because Penn State's defense is good, but definitely has some spots in which the depth is questionable, primarily at safety and linebacker. Obviously, Penn State has three really good safeties at the top in Reed, Winston, and Wheatley, but after that, it is a question mark. Linebacker is obviously a position in which the depth is not strong at all. And, at defensive end, in general, you like to see the pass rush get going, but the depth at defensive end, showing some of that depth off in this game would be, I think, beneficial for Penn State as well. It's just really top to bottom, just a lot of the young guys getting reps and experience because they may prove to be pivotal down the road.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm thinking more like I want to see more out of Elliott Washington. I know he has that one really nice pick early
Yeah,
on in the season. I'd like to see more of him at corner.
it's a good one.
Lane is another good one, like you said. He's probably gonna have to play a lot, especially if your prediction comes true and KJ Winston's not there. So Just looking through the rest of the list. Maybe Zion Tracy, maybe.
Yeah,
Specca is a good one. Will we see Tyrese Mills, maybe? A little bit? Yeah.
perhaps if we don't in this game, I don't know if we'll ever see him. I think he's seen a little bit of snaps, but obviously his career has not gone the trajectory that Penn State
Hmm.
probably would have hoped this season. Yeah, he's seen 3 snaps this year. Um, but I mean, at this point, he's I think in his final year of eligibility. So that is what it
Um,
is.
Alonzo Ford, who's what we was kind of
Yeah,
hyped when he came to campus, and then just not
yeah,
non-existent, but 20,
yeah.
40 snaps in 2 games. So
Missed last year with that injury, obviously. Um, Looked good against Bowling Green. Uh, yeah, I think we'll see a little bit more of him as he's that kind of that fifth or sixth guy at defensive tackle this year. But
mhm.
um, I think they feel good about that. I would also point to maybe a not exactly younger guy, but an Davian Collins, a Zion Tracy, uh, Ty Blandon, maybe a Jordan Mayer,
Okay,
Wisconsin
that's a
transfer,
good one.
who was who came over this off season, played in 1 snap against West Virginia, did not play against Bowling Green. But getting him some snaps wouldn't be a bad idea. And we'll see if Tamir Robinson's ready to go. If Tamir Robinson's ready to go, he should see plenty of snaps in this one as well.
So let me ask you this, kind of the last thing on this subject at least. Does Penn State cover, and what do you think the final score is going to be? Right now, the spread is at 48.5 with the over under 56.5.
Yeah, I think Penn State should win this game by close to 50 points at least. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
Penn State, yeah, if Penn State wins 45 nothing, 48 nothing, you'll take that. But at that point, I feel like there'd probably be a lot of, they left a lot of points on the field or opportunities on the field type discussions. So I think in an ideal world, Penn State wins this game, kind of similar to that um, UMass game last year, which was 63-10, but Kent State shouldn't even put up 10 points in this game. I think this should be a 63 nothing type blowout win. Will it be that? Who knows? But that's what it should be.
That's UMass was 63-0. Delaware was 63-7.
Yeah, it honestly should be about that.
That's what I was thinking too. Probably more like I always say it's like impossible for a team not to score, but after watching Tennessee Kent State last week, I'm like, I don't know if this team's going to get past midfield. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
they are very very bad. But
No.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, this would. I definitely wouldn't recommend anybody ever touching this game just because 40.5 points is a lot of points. Uh, but yeah, I think Penn State should hit the over by themselves in this one.
so now that we got that out of the way, let's look ahead at the future games real quick. After that, Illinois night game, by the way,
Yeah.
huge. Just because Penn State hasn't had one yet. Well, technically they did, but it was away. Penn State hasn't a home night game yet. Illinois, Penn State. It's going to be a September 28th night game. Illinois is ranked 24 right now. Will they be ranked when they come to Happy Valley? That's the big question, as they will face off against number 22 Nebraska
Yeah,
this weekend. That's also a night game, 8 p.m. Fox in Nebraska.
on Friday.
Kind of intrigued to see where that one kind of goes because
I think that
this
Nebraska
is
team's real good.
yeah, I'm like indifferent on them right now. I think they're solid. I think they beat a good Kansas team. The other two wins are whatever. Who the hell cares about Eastern Illinois or Central Michigan? But oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about Illinois' schedule.
Yeah,
You know what I meant.
yeah,
Illinois is weird though. Like I feel like
Illinois.
Illinois gonna ground and pound, kind of just kill the
Yeah,
clock type of team.
I'm not as much of a believer in Illinois right now. I think this is still an Illinois team that finishes about 6-6 this year.
Hmm.
Um, Nebraska, to finish that thought off, I think that Nebraska team is looking at the schedule should be at least an 8-win team this year. Illinois and Purdue the next 2 weeks. I think that Rutgers game is a toss up. We'll see what Indiana is. Um,
Yeah.
I want to believe in the Hoosiers, but I'm pacing myself. But Nebraska has a easy schedule, has a mostly easy schedule. Only 2 ranked opponents right now after Illinois. But going back to Illinois, um, yeah, not a big believer in them just yet. Obviously, the defense played really well. Luke Altmaier has performed really well over these first few weeks, but um, this still should be an opponent. It should be an opponent that Penn State still is able to take care of.
Week after that, Penn State will welcome UCLA to town. UCLA is just got beat the hell out of by
Yeah,
Indiana in their first Big Ten game. I don't think anyone really saw that one coming, but 42-13 lost to Indiana last week.
yeah.
ABC this week against LSU, number 16. Then they play welcome Oregon to town on the 28th, and then they travel across the country to take on Penn State in Happy Valley. I just they're gonna be what 1-4 or 1-3 by the time they get to Penn State.
Uh, yeah. 1-3 is absolutely what they're going to be. I don't see them beating LSU, and I don't see them beating Oregon.
No,
The UCLA may be the worst, second to worst team in the Big Ten this year. I think Purdue may be worse, but definitely not a good UCLA team.
week after that, Penn State has to travel to the West Coast, do the opposite of what UCLA did, and they're gonna go take on USC. USC is now 2-0 after a big win opening the season against LSU, a 48-0 victory Utah State. Probably going to beat the piss out of Michigan this weekend because they're just not that good this year. Wisconsin doesn't look that good this year. That's who they take on after that. And then Minnesota. So they got a nice little, I don't want to call it a cupcake schedule, but a nice little couple cupcakes before they ramp up and welcome Penn State to town.
Yeah, if they get past Michigan this weekend, they should be able to come into that Penn State game 5-0. This should be a top 10 matchup between the Nittany Lions and Trojans.
Mm.
Um, I'm not. I'm a believer in USC. I think they're definitely a dark horse for the Big Ten. I'm not a full believer in the defense just yet, mostly because I'm not sure that LSU team is actually good.
That's fair. Brian
Uh,
Kelly also stinks, but
yeah, I'm not sure LSU's actually good. I think LSU's fine. They'll probably win 8 games this year,
mhm.
but I'm not sure that game is a measuring stick as it should be. This Michigan offense sucks. So
It's bad.
this what I'm basically saying is I don't think USC's defense may actually be tested until that Penn State game.
Mhm.
Which hey, that gives them 5 weeks to get their footing. And that LSU offense obviously has some players, but I'm not sure. I'm still questioning if their defense is real. Obviously, the offense is very good. But yeah, that's going to be a tough one for Penn State.
Yeah. Playoff implications, obviously, for that one.
Yeah,
On top of it, USC's passing offense is very good. Their rushing attack, it's solid. It's not great. I
yeah,
would say it's good, not great. So that's where it's going to be interesting because Penn State's DBs are really going to be tested by then, and you just hope like hell that KJ Winston will be fully 100% by that game. Obviously, you hope so. 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks from now. So you would
and
assume so.
Miller Moss may be the best quarterback the Nittany Lions face all season as well.
That's true. Yeah. Don't actually, now that I look at it, yeah, don't disagree with that one. Purdue, no.
Uh,
Washington, yeah. Ohio State, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
no, you're probably right.
I don't think Will Howard's much
No.
of an upgrade over Kyle McCord. So
After that, Penn State gets a bye week on the 19th, and then they will travel out to Camp Randall and take on Wisconsin. Now, originally, this matchup was going to be a little bit tougher than I expected, but now that
yep,
Tyler Van Dyke's down, they have to bring in Braden Locke, the backup quarterback, who, if you hear Wisconsin fans and you watch Wisconsin press conferences or whatever, go on Twitter too, they're all like, well, it was like QB1A and QB1B. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. But sure, whatever makes you sleep at night.
yeah,
Um, they just
yeah.
got beat like hell by Alabama too.
Yeah,
And
I
then they
mean, this is not a good Wisconsin team. This is a Wisconsin team
no.
that struggled with Western Michigan and struggled with South Dakota.
Hmm.
It's no surprise that they got their brakes beat off them by Alabama, um, which again, college football in general this year is weird. I'm not sure there's actually anybody. Obviously, there's good teams, but I'm not sure how many actual great teams there are on college football this year.
Hmm.
There's a lot of parity, it seems, because through 3 weeks, I'm not totally impressed by Alabama either.
No.
I think Alabama won that game in blowout fashion more so because Wisconsin is uh, terrible offensively and their defense is clearly not very good this year either. But yeah, this is a game that Penn State should be able to go to Camp Randall and come out with a victory. It's not a good Wisconsin team, and it's interesting to see where Luke Fickle will be. Luke Fickle's not getting fired, but where his stock is as a head coach coming out of this season. Because the Badgers, looking at their schedule, USC coming up,
Then Purdue
Rutgers,
home,
yeah.
at Rutgers, at
So I mean, I'm looking
Northwestern.
at their schedule. The only gimmies in terms of potential wins is maybe Purdue and maybe Northwestern.
Hmm.
But they'll be underdogs to Penn State. They'll probably be underdogs at Iowa, underdogs against Oregon. If Nebraska's as good as I
If
think
they
they
stay
are,
this good, yeah.
they'll be underdogs there. And Minnesota is, I would say, right now better than this Wisconsin team. So I mean,
Hmm.
this is a Wisconsin team that could very easily finish with a losing record this year.
Yeah, I actually would be shocked if they didn't, just because I'm looking right now. They have 2 wins right now. Then they go out to USC this weekend. They're probably going to get. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They have a bye week.
Yeah.
Then they go out to USC, which USC is probably going to kick the crap out of them. Purdue's not bad this year, so it's like, I mean, not as bad as everyone thought they were going to be. At
Yeah.
Rutgers, I think they lose. At Northwestern, they probably lose, I think. And then Penn State, they lose. At Iowa, they lose. Oregon, they lose. Nebraska,
You may
I
get a
don't
lot.
think,
You
yeah.
may get a lot of people in your mentions about Purdue after that 66-7 loss to Notre Dame,
I
but
forgot about that, yeah. But
but at the same time, I
not as
that
bad
was
as I thought they were going to be. Put it like that. I thought they were
yeah,
going to be bad, but I didn't think they were going to be
that was also a
awful.
Notre Dame team on a absolute mission after being
Yeah,
embarrassed.
that's not a happy team. But anyway,
But
after
that Purdue
that,
schedule is also kind of tough. So
yeah. So right now, hypothetically, if we're looking at it, 1, 2, 3 wins Kent State, 4 wins we're assuming Illinois, 5 wins UCLA,
yeah,
USC. We still considering a loss, or we?
I
I
it's a
think the
coin
West
flip.
Coast
It's
thing
a
kind of hurts.
let's it's a road game, so let's go L with the distance. We'll go an L for now, but I think that's a coin flip game. I can see Penn State. Let me see what Penn State's offense is and after the Illinois game.
That's true. So say hypothetically 5-1 entering the bye week, then you get a bye week. You go to Camp Randall, who Wisconsin we
Should
just said
win.
stinks. 6-1, 6-1 versus Ohio State, who plays Marshall this weekend, which is a real Akron, Western Michigan. Marshall, what a hell of an out of conference schedule there.
Hey,
Um,
you gotta watch out for those Thunder and Herd.
yeah, hey, Charles Huff, man, not a bad coach, but so they'll probably be 3-0. They'll probably then next week they go out to Michigan State, probably 4-0. Iowa 5-0. This is where it gets interesting because Ohio State's going to be coming off back-to-back, or I'm sorry, Oregon, then a bye week, and then versus Nebraska.
Yeah,
At Oregon, bye week, home versus Nebraska. Then they have to go to Penn State. Is this
correct.
the year that Penn State pulls it off?
I I think it's possible. Possible. I'm not sure. I would say it's likely right now. Just because I have probably more questions about Penn State after the first two games than I did coming into the season, just
Fair.
because of depth at some positions. Um, but yeah, I think it's possible, and you add in the fact that that bye week between Oregon and Nebraska helps, but that's going to be two physical games for Ohio State. Um, Going to Autzen Stadium is not going to be easy. I imagine that could be. Uh, See, Oregon gets screwed in that one because that's not going to be a night kick for Oregon
Yeah.
because they're not putting Oregon Ohio State on at 11 p.m.
Hmm.
Eastern time. So that's maybe a 5 o'clock kick in Oregon, uh, or it'll be well, it's not going to be the big noon kick either.
Very true.
So maybe yeah, maybe a 5 o'clock kick in uh, Autzen. Yeah, if they're going to get tripped up, it's going to be the Penn State or Oregon, maybe both. But I still, I've been on the record saying that I think Ohio State goes through the regular season undefeated. I'm not going to change that now through 3 weeks. So as of
That's
right
fair.
now, yeah, let's keep it as an L. But yeah, Penn State could, I think, has an opportunity to win that game.
All right, that's perfectly fair. So I'm not going to go really further past that because anything. I mean, even this is kind of a stretch going this far past the into the schedule. But um, so let's move on to some
Uh,
recruiting talk. There's some interesting stuff going on. Or is there
Shit.
something else?
Uh, Seeing if I can find an early line for that Penn State Ohio State game.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes they release them early, but for the most part, I haven't seen a lot. Like even this
Uh,
Kent State one didn't come out until like Monday.
Yeah, I know some of the books release them early,
Hmm.
uh,
Sometimes you get lucky.
but as of now, I do not see anything.
So let's talk a little recruiting because there's some interesting stuff going on. We thought the 2025 class was done. It doesn't seem like it is, with a new offer going out this week to Bradley Gompers, Central Catholic athlete, 5.7 3-star, Duke commit since June. Committed to Duke after official visits to Michigan State and Duke. Number 11 in the state, number 18 overall athlete. Uh, where does Penn State kind of see him position wise, and do you think they have a shot to flip him?
I do think they have a shot at flipping him.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State's been monitoring him for quite a while now. Kid who got hurt last year, which kind of, I would say, hurt his recruitment too much, but definitely slowed down his recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, still ended up with a pretty good offer sheet. But Penn State, kind of just kept track of him, kept him, you know, amongst the guys they kept on talking to over the last few months, and they watched him very closely here, and they like what they've seen so far this season. He's been very, very good for Pittsburgh Central Catholic in the early parts of this season, and it was a much well-deserved offer. He also got offered by North Carolina State and Ole Miss over the last few weeks, which his stock is definitely rising. Uh, where Penn State sees him, I would probably assume linebacker. I think there's a good chance that two of the linebackers and Deshaun Burnett and LeVar Arrington both end up as defensive ends long term. So it would make sense to add a linebacker. Very athletic linebacker if he does play that position. Um, Plays tight end for Pittsburgh Central Catholic. Don't see him playing tight end at Penn State. And he would be, I'm not sure he has the athleticism or speed to be. He could perhaps play that, a lion type role, but I'd have to get better look at his athleticism and potential speed there.
I know he claims a 4.48 40 on his Twitter.
Yeah, so
That's
let's maybe add half a second to it. I mean,
yeah,
maybe add 5/10 of a second.
really smart kid too. 4.97 weighted GPA. I mean, huge
Yeah,
number one. Speaking of huge, 6'5", 215. That's a
yeah,
big boy at linebacker. Because I mean, just look who they have now between what's Tony Ross 6'2" and then Kobe King's
yeah. He
to
would definitely
6'1".
he would definitely
Like,
be on the bigger side for linebacker. Could develop into a defensive end as well at the next level.
mhm.
But very, very good athlete. Shows that on tape. Explosive athlete, versatile. Does a little bit of everything for Pittsburgh Central Catholic.
Very skinny frame too, which it looks like you said, you can kind of pack on that weight there and probably eventually turn him into a an edge slash linebacker role.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly could.
Um, Interesting name to watch. Definitely someone to keep an eye on. I wouldn't be shocked if he came to campus over the next couple weeks, maybe even this weekend, because the offer just came yesterday, day before, or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think he does have a trip to Ole Miss coming up soon.
Okay, so that would make sense. But I still would probably expect Penn State to at least get him on campus before a decision is made.
Yes.
Other than that, who else? Andrew Olesh, back in
Yes.
conversations with him. Now he's going to take a long list of visits. I got him pulled up right here. This weekend he will be at Michigan for the USC game, so visiting Michigan, obviously committed there.
Yep.
Next weekend we'll be at Alabama for that big Georgia game. 2 weeks after that, he will be at Oregon for an official visit with the Ducks when they take on Ohio State, which we just talked about before. And he will be back at Penn State for the Whiteout November 9th. He
Yep.
also plans on visiting Notre Dame for an official, but nothing is set yet. Do they sound like they have a good shot? Because I know these are all unofficials, and it doesn't really matter because he's been to campus a million times. Do they have a shot of potentially flipping him from Michigan, or do you think one of these other schools is gonna convince him to flip there?
I mean, I think they have a shot. As long as he wants, as long as his recruitment's open, I think they have a legitimate shot. He wants to be in an offense that uses tight end a lot, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's very few offenses in the country that have turned out tight ends to like Penn State has over the last few years. Um, Michigan does have a good tight end room, but I would still say Michigan doesn't have the tight end pedigree over the last decade that Penn State has. And all those other teams that he's interested in obviously have very prolific offenses as well. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I expect him to flip him and land him down the road. But the fact that he's, at least considering it at this point, I know he says he's committed. It doesn't sound to be that strong of a commitment. Um, and I mean, I think there's a lot of uncertainty about Michigan under Sharon Moore. Um, it's very similar hire to that of Freeman and Notre Dame, which was hired to kind of keep the band together more than anything. Um, and I mean, Notre Dame isn't exactly a world beater, despite this weekend's past win. Um, and I think there's a lot of questions about Notre Dame's future under Marcus Freeman. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now about Michigan's future under Sherrod Moore. They've recruited well. They haven't recruited super well, from what I recall recently. Um, and that offense is absolutely atrocious right now. Um, it, I think ultimately Michigan's run is probably at this point over, and they're going to go back to being that Michigan that we saw for the better part of 2 decades, between 2000 and 2020.
Rich Rod, Michigan, all over again. Anyway, I shouldn't even say Rich Rod. Who am I thinking? Brady
Brady
Hoke.
Hoke.
That's what I was thinking. Brady Hoke, Rich Rod. Yeah, they all kind of stunk. Yeah, no, that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. I do think Oregon's going to be a serious threat there, just
Yeah,
because they obviously have the NIL money to outspend just about anyone. And you're seeing it, with their recruiting class this cycle. But
absolutely.
other than that, 2025 class, that's really it. 2026 class, though, Ryan O'Blenis, national recruiting analyst for Rivals, just broke some news on Twitter. Savion
So,
Hitter, the number 28 overall prospect and number one prospect in the state of Virginia, and number one running back in the 2026 class, will be on campus for the whiteout in a couple months, I should say. Um, how does things kind of fall with him, considering Penn State already has a top seven running back committed currently in Messiah Mickens?
I mean, if you're a running back, I think all you got to do is look at what Penn State does at the running back position in terms
Mm-hmm.
of development, how they use running backs, and how they split carries consistently. There's always enough to go around for running backs, especially if you're one of the top guys. Um, so I don't think competition necessarily scares away running backs when it comes to Penn State. Once you get to two running backs, it's a little crowded, but I think Penn State has a legitimate opportunity in this recruitment. Looking at the other um, programs here, I think Ohio State and Michigan are probably those next two programs that are really the main contenders here. Cameron, Tennessee, obviously, but I like Penn State's opportunity here to make a strong impact on this recruitment with that upcoming visit. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. But I don't think Mickens is going to hurt him and hurt Penn State in this recruit.
Gotcha. Um, Tennessee, interestingly enough, just added a 10% tax to their tickets for their
They
athletes
did.
and their talent tax or talent fee or whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, they might be able to throw a little more money than we think.
Yeah, and that definitely is going to help them going forward. That's for sure. I mean, they're getting creative with
Yeah,
but hey, that's the price of, I guess, winning football today in college football.
that is fair. Other than that, recruiting really, there's not much else going on. 2027 rankings came out recently.
Yep.
Keenan Spell, the lone 2027 commit, came in at number 52 overall. Pretty high ranking for him to start. I think he could go higher when he's all said and done. I know he doesn't play a ton of great comp at
Right.
McKeesport, but he looks goddamn good doing it. So,
Yeah, and there's a lot of Penn State targets in that top 100. A couple of the notable ones: Brady Edmonds, quarterback out of California, actually recently
mhm.
named a top four of Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Texas. Unlikely Penn State lands him. Ohio State's the favorite, but he was top 20. Miles McAfee, who was just on campus, came in at number 31.
Yep.
Alaquippa, corner, Larry Moon at number 43. Gabriel
Hmm.
Jenkins out of Amani, number 54. Maxwell Hiller, who's been on campus 6 times already, number 57. Sidney Ralu out of New Jersey, number 79. Xavier Sab out of New Jersey, Glassboro, number 82. And then Peter Bork, pro style quarterback out of Massachusetts, might be the quarterback to watch in the 2027 cycle, with Edmonds likely eventually going to be a Buckeye. He camped well for this Penn State this past summer. Was very impressive. Earned an offer. Measurements are legitimate. Obviously, a lot of time to grow, but
Mhm.
could be the guy for Penn State in 2027. Looking down the road.
Yeah, way too far down the road. I'm 2027 kids. It's crazy that we're talking about this already. It makes me feel old. But anyway, besides the point. One other thing I do want to address before we sign off today. There's a Twitter account or X account called Walk On Red Shirts, and they had a tweet recently that said, if Billy Napier gets fired, or I should say when Billy Napier gets fired, James Franklin would be a name to watch. Do you agree or disagree?
I mean, he is a Jimmy Sexton client. Jimmy Sexton will throw his you know, his
Can't
clients'
or
names
clients? Yeah.
into every coaching search. But no, Florida's always made sense as a potential destination for James Franklin. They definitely have the resources that he would be able to, I think, have success with.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm not saying I think he's gonna leave, but yeah, his name's gonna pop up. Absolutely, his name will pop up. I think Florida should hire Drinkowitz from Missouri, but that was not the question. But yeah,
Yeah.
Franklin's name will pop up uh, when that job does open up here.
Drinkaway makes a lot of sense. But it sounds like Missouri has a pretty good NIL fund too. So it's like, do you really want to leave that? It's the same conference, and maybe I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I do think that Franklin's name definitely is going to pop up for the sole
Yes.
fact that he's a great recruiter. He's proven he can win. In like, I don't know, it's a new AD here now, so it's a little different, I guess. Maybe even though he has a good relationship with Kraft. On top of it, like he recruits the state of Florida really well already. He'd
Yeah.
probably bring Sider with him, who has Florida ties himself.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think James Franklin could, if he would end up at Florida, could absolutely restore Florida to what it was.
Easily.
Maybe not winning national championships, uh, you know, or being a national championship contender every single year like they were under Urban Meyer, but he could get Florida to where Penn State is right now, absolutely. And you could argue that his opportunity to win a national championship at Florida may be better than the opportunity to win a national championship at Penn State, just because of the resources, the recruiting that he would be, the recruiting pools that would be available to him, and a couple other factors in there. But ultimately, we'll see what happens. His name will get involved, I'm sure.
Mm.
Will he leave Penn State? I doubt it, but yeah, definitely going to be something to watch here as the season progresses, because Napier will get fired sooner than later.
Yeah, I can't see him lasting the entire season. I'd be personally shocked if that was to happen. But yeah, it's just something interesting to talk about. Wait and see what happens there. But that's really all I got. You got anything else before we sign off?
Uh, no, not really. I think that's all I got for now. Obviously, kind of an easy weekend to preview a game here with Kent State coming to town on Saturday. Should be a should be an easy one for Penn State. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, 100% easy win this weekend. Should be 3-0 heading into next week versus Illinois. Night game. Can't wait for that. So I hate the fact that this game's a 3:30 game. I know fans like 3:30 games. As a media member, I don't like it because it ruins my entire day, especially when it's like I could probably write the story right now and just insert score here. Like,
Yeah, it's solidly better than a 7 o'clock game, but yeah, new games are my preference now that I'm part of the media.
yep, 100%. But for me and Dylan, it's another episode of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.